Does God exist? And AI's response. Asking the question, does God exist, is already problematic. According to the verification principle, the question cannot even be considered meaningful because there is no empirical test for the question, i.e., you cannot point to God. God is a metaphysical entity. So, because you cannot point to the metaphysical reality called God, you cannot prove his existence in the same way you can prove that the sun will rise tomorrow by waiting and watching the sun rise. AI correctly outlines the cosmological argument, teleological argument, and ontological arguments as the triumvirate of the debate. Other approaches to the debate, such as the problem of evil and the argument from religious experience, are given a reasonable treatment by AI. Ultimately, AI admits that it does not know the answer to the question and instead invites a religious believer to make up their own mind. This harkens back to Wittgenstein's language games, in which we are reminded just how personal the matter is. The language of does God exist belongs to the field of theology. So a scientist asking the question, does God exist, is talking from a different language game, i.e. a different profession, and so cannot have a meaningful discussion on philosophical matters. So the problem is solved then. The question only need be pondered by Christians and other believers. Right? AI was asked another question, are there multiple gods? The response was a summary of different religions such as Greek mythology, Hinduism, and the discussion of the different philosophical approaches to worship, such as monotheism and pantheism. It seems that the AI is regurgitating the philosophical knowledge base that mankind has amassed over many generations. So if the academics do not know the answer to these metaphysical questions, then the AI wouldn't know the answer either. It can be concluded then that humans are still smarter than computers, even artificial intelligence. This means that the artificial intelligence cannot shed any more light on the arguments for and against God's existence than the philosophers and the cosmologists. In addition to the aforementioned questions, AI was also asked, who created mankind? A compare and contrast text was produced touching upon the religious creation narrative as well as Darwin's theory of evolution. What was not touched upon was the work of Hawking in positing the theory that there is no boundary to the universe and therefore no beginning to the universe and therefore no need for a creator. What are the implications of this? God may not exist in Hawking's eyes. However, that just leaves room for humans to be limitless. So perhaps there is a way to cure cancer. So perhaps there is a way to eliminate the common cold. Perhaps Bezos, Branson and Musk will find a way to put a man on Mars. And so Nietzsche, whose work was not discussed by AI, was not incorrect when he declared the birth of the Superman and the death of God vis-a-vis Stephen Hawking's theory. In addition to a treatise on the various theories of human etiology, the AI, in response to the question of who created AI, began to discuss the contributions of notable thinkers such as Alan Turing to the field of computer science. Turing established the Turing test, which rightly puts humans as a prime life form in being able to differentiate between man and machine by giving the task of a human. So that fits with Darwin in establishing that humans who evolved over thousands of years are the definitive life form. AI, which are a type of computer, are a different type of life form, or are they an imitation of a life form? AI responds to this by describing AI as simulating human intelligence. We come full circle when we consider the Turing test. The Turing test says that for a machine to pass as a human must be able to hold a conversation with a computer and not be able to tell he or she is talking to a machine. When the AI was being asked the aforementioned philosophical questions, it was noticeable that a machine was being used. The paucity of critical thinking, the omission of key thinkers, and the brevity of response was clearly the work of a system rather than a creative force. But then there is bias in that the people asking the questions to the machine, that person was aware the machine was artificial by virtue of the fact that the interrogator was also the questioner, so the Turing test is incomplete. In June 2014, the AI Eugene Goosterman passed the Turing test. ChatGPT has also passed the Turing test. If AI can pass as humans, then does that qualify AI as a new life form? And if AI can pass as a new life form, then does that mean that humans have achieved the ability of creation distinct from reproduction, which is simply creating more of the same and variable improvement from one generation to the next, thus elevating humans to the position of gods? The Christian tradition argues that no man will know the time or the hour of the second coming of Christ, so the test to prove the Christian God's existence is at some unknowable date in the future. This is not testable according to the verification principle, so the question would be deemed meaningless. In terms of orthogonal methods, it seems then that a new species, AI, and Ayer's verification principle both agree that the question of whether God exists is an unanswerable question that can only be answered at an individual level. And if it can only be answered at an individual level, then there's no objective proof, which is to say then that you cannot ever prove or disprove God's existence. Consequently, we then fall back onto philosophical belief systems such as Pascal's wager, which says that because we don't know whether God exists, we're better off acting on the safe side and acting in a moralistic manner, just in case there is a heaven into which we are striving to get. The alternative, descending to Dante's circles of hell, is too high a price to pay, and we can just live according to a Protestant work ethic and then enter a hypothetical heaven upon passing. In conclusion, the question of whether God exists or not is a question that AI cannot answer any better than the professionals who are divided in their thinking. The theory of which was the impetus for this discourse was that if AI is supposed to be potentially smarter than humans, they should be able to answer the question which has eluded human thinkers for generations. But since they cannot, it is therefore clear that this is not a question that can be solved by boosting IQ points, but is rather an extremely personal question that only the reader of this essay can know for themselves. Essay written by Simeon Beckford-Tongs, BSc, MSc, copyright 2023. Commentary. ChatGPT AI produced an AS-level response to the various philosophical questions. The response could have been improved by critical reasoning, more comparison and contrast, and a broader coverage of the sundry of the philosophical ideas. The responses could have been improved by answering the question with full debate, greater ratiocination, and a more careful examination of the concepts. So, over to you. How do you think the AI performed? What are your opinions on the existence of God debate?